The Two Faces of Norm is the 5th episode of the 8th season of Cheers. This is directed by Andy Ackerman, and as always there will be spoilers from now as I go through the episode chronologically and share some thoughts. Really great episode, some really funny moments, and one of my favourite norms ever, kind of, but it's at the very end. I'll talk about that when we get there. This one starts off with Rebecca coming in. She's been to a seminar on positive reinforcement, so she starts to give positive reinforcements to everybody there. And she gives Norm one and Carla, and then she's trying to think of something for Cliff, and she just can't. And then Carla walks past and says, "Way to make a dork out of yourself, Clavin." And Rebecca responds, "Way to nail him, Carla," which was just fabulous. But my favourite thing about this is Cliff's delight at that positive reinforcement. Cliff was genuinely happy, and I rather enjoyed it. So definitely a really fun intro. We then have two parts of the narrative. One is established immediately when somebody who looks like a doctor comes in and he tells Carla he's looking for Sam. He needs to find him immediately because he has a blockage. Carla immediately thinks this is Sam's heart or something this doctor is talking about. Turns out it's not a doctor. He's a mechanic. There's a blockage with Sam's Corvette. And Carla thinks, why couldn't it be his heart? Because obviously Sam really, really loves his car. Sam comes in and finds out about this and is really unhappy about the car, but he is happy that he's taken on extra work and has a lot more money saved to buy the bar back. And then he has to pay the mechanic, of course. And Rebecca suggests maybe he could sell the Corvette because it is just a car. And I have to say, I'm with Rebecca on this one. I don't drive. I have no interest in driving. To me, it is just a car. But obviously we have this long history with Sam and his car. Had this come out of nowhere, had this been the first time we'd heard of his car, we wouldn't have had a deeper understanding of Sam's emotions. But we've had so much opportunity to get to know Sam and his love of his car over the seasons. And I think it's very clear that Sam is torn between his love of his car and his now desperate need to buy the bar back. And he's genuinely thinking about it, and we'll explain what happens, or I'll explain what happens in a little bit. Norm then comes in and establishes the main part of the narrative, and he's been so busy painting, he's had a lot of work, he hasn't really had a chance to stop by Cheers, which is obviously devastating. Woody suggests he gets some help, and then Carla swoops in and shows him how hiring somebody could actually help increase his profits. And throughout the episode, there's a running joke that all of this came from Woody. All of these great ideas came from Woody, and we'll come back to that in a little bit as well. And somebody sitting beside Norm at the bar actually says, well, I could use the work, and Norm hires him. And Sam then comes in with an ad for his Corvette. He's decided that buying the bar means more to him than his car, which I think is obvious. Sam's number one love in his life is Cheers. But I do wonder, well, I don't wonder actually, and this is a point that I want to make. He's clearly agonising over selling the Corvette. Whereas obviously we didn't get to see the process of him selling Cheers to the big corporates. But I feel like Diane had caused him so much turmoil that he might have, in my opinion, just kind of thrown the towel in with Cheers, not really thinking straight, just sold it to the first big company that was willing to give him even a slightly decent amount for it. Whereas with the car, he's really agonising over this decision. And I feel like with Cheers, because of Diane, it was a quick decision that ultimately he definitely regretted it. There's no doubt about that. And I kind of blame Diane for that. I love her. I love her more than anything. But I do blame her for that. And Norm is then explaining that he's not used to bossing people around, and maybe his new employees are taking advantage of him. And Rebecca said that she doesn't care what her employees are thinking of her. Being a boss is not a popularity contest. And well, it turns out Rebecca does care. And it also turns out that Norm's employees are actually in the pool room. And to Norm's credit, he does try. He basically tries to follow them out of the bar to convince them to go back to work, and it's clearly not working, so he has to take drastic action, and we'll come back to that in a second. A character called Dennis Hammill comes in. He's played by Rob Moran, and he's looking to buy the Corvette. And it seems like he could be a good candidate. He's pressed for time because he has to go and meet his stylist. He definitely seems like a Sam Malone type of character. And then Sam gives him these questions to see if he's a good fit. And it was a trick question about driving at high noon. And he's no longer a candidate. And Sam storms off and is just shouting things to himself and to anybody who will listen. And he's clearly not happy with this. And Cliff then goes off on a Cliff thought about how telephones will be obsolete one day. And in response to this, Carla takes the telephone and hits Cliff on the head with it. Norm's then on the phone with Rudy. And after he comes off the phone, Woody and Rebecca are standing behind the bar, and Norm says, I should have never listened to Rebecca, because when it was going well, it was Woody's idea. But now that it's falling apart, it was Rebecca's fault. And her expression in response to that was great. While Woody was just kind of nodding along in agreement, which I liked. And Frasier suggests that maybe Norm could create a second personality to help handle this. And Norm thinks, yeah, maybe I could pretend to be a new business partner. And he does. He picks up the phone again and he speaks into the beer mug, an empty beer mug, to kind of throw his voice. And he pretends to be his new business partner, Anton Kreitzer. And he's really aggressive and really assertive, and it seems to do the trick. And he hangs up the phone and he says, I think maybe I ought to call Vera, which I rather liked. And what I love about that is that it kind of suggests that actually Vera has Norm wrapped around her little finger. With Norm often being at Cheers, often trying to avoid phone calls with Vera, it might seem that he maybe doesn't treat her very well, that he's not very attentive. But that comment there suggests to me that actually, for the most part, when he's not at Cheers, he does listen to Vera, he does whatever she wants, and I feel like that's probably a more accurate depiction of their relationship. And Sam then comes in and he's sold his car. Needless to say, he's not very happy. And Norm then is being Anton Kreitzer again, and he's really enjoying this, and it's a different side to Norm that we don't get to see. And we find out that Kreitzer is actually Vera's maiden name. He used Vera as the inspiration for this strong, aggressive, assertive character, which again makes me think that actually that's what Norm's life with Vera is generally like. And Sam then tells Rebecca that he doesn't need a car to pick up women. And two girls come in, Sam hits on them. Turns out they saw him leaving his new car, which is nothing like the Corvette, and they're not interested. I do just want to say, I can't necessarily speak on behalf of females everywhere, but I can say that I don't care about what car a person drives. I literally could not care less. And I feel like that's the general consensus. There will be some people who care about what cars a person drives. But if you're the Sam Malone of this story, I will say that the kind of person you want to have a long-lasting relationship with is not going to care about the kind of car you drive. I just wanted to make that clear. And then the guys come in, Norm's employees come in, and what I really like about this, it was a rather sweet moment. They're angry at how Kreitzer is treating them, but they're also angry at how he's treating Norm, and they're not going to stand for that. So they're going to go down to his office and bash his skull in, which is a bit extreme. And obviously Norm panics, and in Sam's new car, they race down there. Sam doesn't care about how fast he's driving now that he's not trying to protect his Corvette. So they get down there before the guys. And Norm really went to extreme lengths, because we have Norm's office. We also have a door with a Kreitzer written on it. They hired a secretary. She's played by Cynthia Stevenson. She's called Doris. She believes Kreitzer is real. And on the front door to the office, it actually says K&P Painting. Obviously Kreitzer and Peterson painting, which I thought was a really nice additional touch. And Norm goes into Kreitzer's office and pretends to have an argument with him, pretends to be a bit scared of him, and basically scurries out with his tail between his legs and tells the guys, we'll just break free from Kreitzer. But the guys point out that they don't want to work for just Norm, because Kreitzer was clearly the brains of the operation. He was a good boss. He was the one who was making sure everything got done. So everything just kind of fell apart in that moment. But Norm put on quite a performance, and it was quite great. We then have the final scene, and I absolutely love this. It's just such a fabulous scene. Sam is on the payphone in Cheers trying to get his car back. He's pretending to be Anton Kreitzer trying to get his Corvette back. He's had seller's remorse, and Frasier walks up to him and said, I'm averse in human persuasion. Let me try. And Frasier takes the phone and he says, Lilith, damn it, give Sam his car back immediately. So Lilith bought the Corvette, which I love. I think that's fabulous. And the fact that Sam is begging Lilith and it's not working, and I loved it. I thought it was great. Not that I like to see Sam stressed about his decision, but definitely within the context of the episode, I rather enjoyed it. And Rudy then comes in, and I don't know if I mentioned who Rudy's played by. Rudy is he's played by Allan Kramer, and really, really great performance. And he comes in to speak with Norm, and he said a few hours afterwards he went back to speak with Kreitzer, and obviously he went into the office and found out that it wasn't a real office, and he realised what had happened. And, well, he didn't. He did realise that Norm was both people, but he thought Norm was Anton, and that Anton was pretending to be a character called Norm Peterson, to be a nice guy, to be their friend, to spy on them while they're working, which I find that so funny. And he said to Norm, save it for the stage, Anton, which I enjoyed. And then my favourite part of the whole episode, Rudy is storming out of Cheers. He's not listening to anything Norm/Anton has to say. Norm follows after him, desperate to convince him that he is Norm Peterson. And he says, I can prove it. And then he walks in front of the door and says, afternoon, everyone. And everybody in the bar turns to face him and replies, Anton. It's one of my favourite Norm moments ever, despite the fact they're not saying Norm, they're saying Anton. But I rather enjoyed it, and Norm was defeated in that moment, and it's beautiful. It's a very, very funny episode. They usually are. Most episodes are. I don't have any personal highlights. Well, let me see if I can choose some. Norm's entire performance as Kreitzer I just thought was fantastic. Rebecca's exasperation whenever Woody took credit for her involvement in this, and Sam's desperation to sell the Corvette without selling the Corvette. He wants the money, he doesn't want to sell the car. I don't like seeing him upset, but I do like seeing that he is considering that Cheers means more to him than the car. It also gave me some thoughts about Diane and what she did to him at the end of an episode of Cheers that I will probably never watch again. I Do a Jew is just horrendously painful. That and the very last episode I never want to watch again. I will watch the last episode again because I'll have to watch it to review it, but that is a good few seasons down the line. But anything that makes me think of Diane, always something I'm happy about. I like the lengths to which Norm went with the office and the signs on the doors to convince the guys that Kreitzer was real. Lilith buying Sam's Corvette, and of course everybody saying Anton at the end of the episode. A great episode. Really thoroughly enjoyed it. The Two Faces of Norm is an absolute joy.